80s of pure show-off. Started selling alarms at the tender age of 19. Where my youngins at? Where my youngins at? Let's go make some noise. Being the youngest person to sell 2,500 accounts at 80 plus MMR. I don't know if that's true, but whatever. Please, ladies and gentlemen, Danny Bessie! Give it up for Bessie! Let's go, Bessie!
Ladies and gentlemen, how is everybody doing today? Woo! Can I get a hell yeah? Oh, I can't hear you. Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing today? Can I get a hell yeah? Boy, I'm excited. How was that for an intro, huh? Oh boy, this better be good or I'm gonna look real stupid. Let me take off this bling. I just bought this necklace at a 60% finance with 0% APR. Two citizens. So, ladies and gentlemen, my name's Danny Pesci. Thanks for the intro. Thanks for everybody helping out. Let me go ahead and take this robe off. Man, I've always wanted to do that. So I started off doing this job as part-time so I could afford doing my theater performance. Some of you guys didn't know that, but started off doing theater, and Door to Door was my way to pay my way through shows and stuff, so I always like to incorporate a little bit of fun, never lose your personality because of your job. So, you guys are here today to learn about selling and serving senior citizens. Okay, that's one of my specialties. I started off for the industry just like a lot of you guys. I wasn't really fond of selling seniors, didn't really know how to do it, and I found a strategy after a few years that I share with you guys today. So, for the next 30, 45 minutes, how it's going to go, I'm going to tell you guys a story, share you guys 5 tips on what I did to increase my sales ability, and I'm going to tell you a story about how my grandma has influenced my life to allow me to be one of the superior senior salesmen in the industry. So, here's some of my stuff I did, very nice. So before I always begin, I like to share some of the people that helped me get here. 10 most influential people in my career. I wouldn't be here without a lot of these people that have helped me get to where I'm at in my life. Jason Strife got me into the industry, Taylor McCarthy, very good friend, Josh Sutherland, Isaac Burnside, Jake Ellsworth, Taylor Livingston, Mendez, and Casey Baugh, Doug Robinson, John Frampton, and Abundant. So Abundant is a peer group that I'm part of that helps businessmen develop and train themselves. So without that, let's go into it. So what is a senior? According to Medicare, a senior is anyone above the age of 65. Typically in Door to Door, it's a person that's retired, at home, on a fixed income, and waiting for you to come on and knock the door. So, why is it important to know how to properly market and sell senior citizens? So, number one, I want to sell you guys on why selling seniors is so important. I've been doing this for 11 years, and I can't tell you how many people I know just refuse to sell seniors, and they tell themselves a story on why they can't do it. And I'm going to go in and try to sell you guys on why you should, give you the tips on how to do it effectively and ethically. Okay? So number one, the best reason why why you should sell seniors is because they're at home most of the day. When we go out and knock doors, the biggest problem we run into is we want to try to catch people home, and the problem is if they're at work, you can't catch them, but seniors, the good thing, they're there all the time. Having good credit, disposable income. Typically seniors you'll run into have very good credit, they have disposable income, and they're interested in purchasing products and services. So what happens is if you start selling these customers because of a higher credit score and disposable income, they're less likely to attrit, your funding rate will be higher, and you'll end up making more income. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into these tips. I'm going to go over a couple tips. Please hold all questions towards the end. I'll do a little role play at the end. You guys can throw some questions at me. I'll explain how you guys, or how exactly I handle these different objections that you guys are going to throw at me. So let's go into it. Okay, 5 tips for effectively selling senior citizens. Tip number 1, strategy. This is one of the most important things, and you're going to want to write these down. Strategy, when you're approaching this job, it's very important to have a game plan. And one of the things that have set me aside from so many other people in the industry is I have a very precise strategy that I follow. And how it works is, I actually keep track and map out. So I work for Vivint, and they use an app called Street Genie, but also I have an app called Spotio. They're a vendor here, awesome service. What I do with Spotio is it's my own individual piece of technology, and then what I'll do is once I get my area that I have, I'll actually go through the neighborhoods and I'll actually map out each senior. And what I'll do is I'll save those seniors for a certain time of the day. And so what I do, after I keep track of them, I go through the neighborhood and I'll make sure I hit those first. Okay, next, don't knock after 5:30 p.m. The reason behind that is most seniors are going to be there all day, and if you knock a senior after 5:30, guess who you're not knocking? Jim, who just got home from work with his wife and kids. So if you're knocking anybody over the age of 65 who's retired, you're wasting your time after 5:30 and you're not effectively running your business, and it's going to cost you a lot of money. So what I do is if I go to a customer's house, I'm about to knock on the door, and I see they're older, and I didn't figure that out from my co-pilot, I was like, oh dang, all right, well, I'm going to save this for later. And so if you don't knock it after 5:30, what you want to teach your reps is you save that customer for the next day. Because we've all been there. The first year, I can't tell you how nervous I was driving out to areas, sick to my stomach, about to knock a door because I had no idea what I was doing or who I was going to talk to. Okay, your reps are going through the same thing. If we can teach our reps to save the seniors that they would typically knock after 5:30, it's going to do a huge thing for you guys. Number one, they're going to have a game plan the next day. If they have a game plan and they know who they're going to talk to first, the nervousness subsides substantially. It took me 4 times to do that this morning. Subsides substantially. So, say that 4 times fast. So what's going to happen is these guys, all of a sudden, are not going to be as nervous because they know who they're going to talk to. Okay, and number 2 is whenever you guys, I'm sure you guys have all been in an experience when you've tried to catch this customer home, and you just can't do it, and it's been so hard, and finally you catch them home, and they're the easiest sale of all time, you visualize it, right? So what that does is 2 things for your reps, is it lowers the nervousness, and it gives them a game plan, and it helps them visualize who they're going to talk to the next day. And you're going to be surprised, because guess what happens when that rep goes out, the first year rep knocks his first door at 2 o'clock, how do you think the rest of his day is going to go? Awesome, because you guys know when's the best time to make a deal? Right after the first deal. So if you guys have that strategy and teach that to them, I'm telling you, you're going to retain higher guys, you're going to pop off sooner, and guess what? If you have 4 or 5 rookies who are saving those seniors for right when they get out the door, and then your office fills up 4 accounts right at the beginning, how does that do for your team? Big time, okay? Next, competitions. Very important. Seniors are the biggest way to go ahead and beat winning competitions, because guess what? That when you go to knock 9 to 9, who's going to be gone for 8, 9 hours of the day because they're at work? Normal people, okay? Normal people that have jobs that are in a working class. So if you know you have a competition coming up, what are you going to do if you find 15 seniors in your neighborhood, but you know on Friday or Thursday and Friday you have a full 9 to 9 day? What are you going to do with all those seniors? Are you going to knock them Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday? No, you're going to save for Thursday and Friday, because guess what? Now that you've worked your entire week, you know where they're at. Thursday and Friday, your entire day's piped up, and you already know exactly who you're going to talk to at what time. So that's going to do tons for your competitions, and if you guys, as you know, the more competitions you win, the more incentives you get, and the more you guys win, the higher you're likely to retain your reps, and the higher they're likely to make more income, and they're going to stick with you a few more years. So you want to come in with a strategy, and that's my favorite part, is I got this down to a T. Okay? So strategy is the most important part. Keep track, map it out, use your one that your company provides, Sales Rabbit, Spotio, or if we're forbidden, you know how to do that. Then don't knock after 5 p.m., save them for a competition, okay? Number 2, physical appearance and verbiage. Obviously, we all know this, it's very important to be sharp cut, you know, very professional looking when you're going. I always like to tuck my shirt in, and I'm very polite when I come to the door, okay? This is obviously, you guys know this, but some of your first year reps don't. Can't tell you how many guys show up, they look like a mess. Seniors understand that, hey, those aren't going to be the ones you want to listen to. Covering up tattoos, you know, trimming your hair. If you have facial hair, trim it, make yourself look sharp. Okay, we all know that. Okay, clean cut and professional. Next, communicate clearly. Okay, that's a super important part, because a lot of first year reps will go through the same spiel every single time. Sales and with seniors, it's not a typical spiel and they're going to say yes or no. You have to romance them a little bit. And what I mean by that is you have to tailor your pitch to the person you're talking to. You're not going to go out and say the same spiel for a 45-year-old guy that you're going to go up and do for a 75-year-old guy who's retired. What my keys that I do is I like to slow down my verbiage so I can pause, take spaces between what I say, and communicate effectively. Because when you go to the door and you're communicating with them, not just pitching them, they can realize that. Because guess what? At 75 years old, you get a lot of sales pitches. And they know if you're any good or not. So, trust me. So, communicate clearly. Next is, so you got the clean cut, professional, communicate clearly. Next is on the door. So here's some of the tips that I do on the door. And then I'm going to give you guys the tips that I do inside the house. And then I'm going to give you guys my money line. Okay. So on the door. Smile and energy, very important. Some guys I know, they have a very low demeanor when they go knock customers' houses, which is fine, but I like to mix it up when I come to a senior's house. So when I go to, I find someone who's a little bit older, I like to smile. So the first thing I do, I knock on the door. Hey, how you doing? And give them a big old smile. I just got braces, so it's kind of hard to do that right now, but I'll make it happen. And energy. I like to turn my energy up a little bit when I come onto their door. Because realize these people's houses that you're knocking on, you guys all have grandmas and family members, they're yearning to talk to somebody. And they're yearning for somebody to connect with. So when you go to the door, you're giving them a little bit of your energy and a little bit of yourself so that they have somebody to talk to and you're able to provide them a good product and service. Because when you come to the door and you can come at them with that energy, they're going to feel it and they're going to be a lot more interested in talking to you because they know that you're actually there to present and not just be, reading off a script. Smile and energy. Okay, seniors on a fixed income. After I do my intro, I say, hey, how you doing? Smile, give them energy. The reason why we're out here, we're talking to a few of the seniors in the neighborhood that are on a fixed income because we have a program that especially is tailored towards them. For my product and service that I do alarms. You're going to tailor this to your product and service that you sell. Just take out security and put in alarm, or take out security and put in whatever product and service you sell. I say my program's designed for seniors on a fixed income. Because with what I sell is I sell a product with zero money down. And they pay a monthly service fee. So we've actually designed it for people who are on a fixed income who couldn't typically go out and afford this kind of product and service. So I nail that off right off the bat. Because seniors, they get sold to every day because guess what? If they're home all day, who's calling them on the phone? Telemarketers all the time. So you want to hit that right off the bat. I'll drop it, boom. Hey, yeah, we're here, we're looking for seniors on a fixed income. Now, one of my favorite little jokes I like to do is, now I don't know if you're on a fixed income, but you might have a few more years till you become a senior, huh? And so I'll give them a little bit of wink and a smile, and then they always laugh about that. So, very corny, yes, I know. Okay, simple process. Now, this is where a lot of your reps are getting lost. And this is one of the biggest things you guys got to take home. Simplicity and the way that you sell your product. So I'm going to tailor this for alarms, because that's what I do. And whatever product and service you guys can do, you're all smart enough to realize how to tailor it to your own industry. But for security is what I always do. When I go to a customer's house, I start off very simple. Okay, this might be repetition for some of you, but when I go to the home, I sell the panel first. The reason why people are actually getting a security system, I keep it simple. We do a lot of home automation, but I don't even talk about that until they understand the 3 big reasons why people above the age of 75 go alarms: fire, police, and medical. So I come to the door and I talk about those 3 things right off the bat. Simplicity, because if you start talking about automation, cameras, they're going to get freaked out and you'll lose them right off the bat. I can't make that clear enough. Guys lose seniors so fast because when they hear technology, they shut off. So some of them are not like that, but you want to be able to scale towards the majority of them, so that's why I hit that right on the head, right on the, on the head. So keep your process simple. Start off with one product. I hit them with the security, I hit them with fire and medical, and I ask, of those 3 things, which do you think would be the most beneficial for you? Okay, nothing world-changing, but those are the 3 biggest things is selling on that. And then after they're sold on security, I add on the home automation. Okay? Third, use their names of other people that you've sold in the neighborhood they might not know. Okay, because if you've been in a neighborhood for 75 years or 50 years or however long these people have been, you're typically going to start knowing some of your neighbors. And it's so important for you to use that with seniors, because what they want to do is they want to have somebody that they can trust, and they might not trust you, but they might trust their neighbor that's been there for 5 or 10 or 15 years. So one of my tips is every customer that I have in a neighborhood, I'll get a little quarter sheet of paper, I'll write down all of the names of my customers in the neighborhood, and I'll hand it to them. So of these people in this neighborhood, who do you know on this list? And what I'll do is after they say, oh, I know this guy and this guy, oh, how do you know them? So this way it's going to start building trust. Handing them a piece of paper with a list of 5 to 10, 15 people that have already had your product and service, it builds ton for your credibility on the doorstep, because guess what? They've been sold to 1,000 times, but they don't know anybody else in the neighborhood who has. So that's super, super important when you go out and do that. Okay? Next, tips for inside the home. Now this is my favorite. This is where I separate myself from pretty much, this and the next slide are the ways I separate myself from a lot of reps out there, just because I've been doing it forever. Okay, number one, selling through family members. Okay, because when you guys realize when you're going to a customer's house that's above the age of 75, that's somebody's mother, somebody's grandmother, somebody's uncle or cousin. And those people typically are concerned about people as they start getting older, and I'm sure all of you guys have, as someone in your family that's up in age that you're worried about, that you're worried about falling or stuff like that. So when you guys use that in your sales process, it's a powerful tool. Because who has been a part of a family member where they might not buy a jacket for themselves, but if their grandson wants one, they'll buy them 3 or 4. Tons. So when you guys use that in their process, if you sell a cool product, and I'm super thankful that I do for Life Alert, we sell little pennants if they fall down and get hurt. One of my favorite lines is, I'll go, Mrs. Jones, obviously this isn't something that you need. It's something that your family would actually benefit from a lot more than you, because it's not about you. It's about them, and the fact that they know nothing's happening to you because they would get a phone call or a text message because you've fallen down and pressed your little button. That's the difference. And so, if I were you, it's not getting this for your system. It's not for you to get this. It's for them. So when you drop a line like that, it puts in perspective. Because a lot of these seniors that you'll go to, they might be stubborn and they won't want to do stuff and they're not used to the product or service. So, but if you sell it on the fact that their family members would benefit from it, that they would actually like the idea that their families are protected, super important, okay? Next, people will buy for others, more for themselves. I kind of rambled on about that. Okay, touch, and then on the knee. So one of my favorite techniques is people realize that when you're going and pitching, you're talking a lot, and half the time they're not listening because they think you're just trying to sell them. One of my best techniques is where I'll go to a customer and she's giving me all sorts of objections. I'll come up to her and be like, Michelle, I'll get on my knee, like this, and I'll say, look, I know you've been around a while and you've probably had a lot of people rip you off, but I'm here honestly to give you an amazing product and service. Look into my eyes, I'm not trying to rip you off. And when you have that kind of conviction on your product and you put your hand on them, it shows them that you're not just some salesman trying to make a commission. It shows them you're a real person, and if you're genuine in the product and service that you sell, it'll show through. And that way, you'll break any story that they're telling inside their head, and a lot of reps are afraid to get on their knees and do that kind of stuff, but it's super powerful. And I can't tell you how many times I've used it, and instantly it breaks that down. It breaks down their buyer's resistance because they can tell you're a real person. Because all of us are. We all have grandmas and grandpas, and the product and service that we sell or our friends sell can be super beneficial to them. So throughout the sales process, I can tell they're super distrustful, touch them on the arm, and then break the ice and look them straight in the eye. Okay? And then last one, referrals. This is one of my money closes. If you're just in that deal and they're just refusing to break ice or go with you and sign up, then what I'll do is on that list that I have, I'll have one or two favorite customers that I've connected with more, and then I'll say, look, I know you don't trust me, but let's go ahead and call Mr. Johnson right now and see what he has to say. So what you do is you pull out your phone, you actually dial up your previous customer because he's retired, he's sitting at home all the time, and if you've done a good job serving him and giving him a good job, or giving him a good product, he will actually help refer you to that customer. So I've had hundreds of deals over my time where I've been able to use that, and it helps out so much. If you're in a part where you can't get through their resistance, pull out your phone. Here, don't listen to me, just talk to him, see what he says. And if he doesn't like it, and if you don't like it, I won't bother you again. Okay, so those are some super powerful tips that I use. And so if you guys can use that effectively, time it out in your pitch, and use it. You don't want to use that on the doorstep because obviously their trust hasn't been built yet. These are tips you want to use inside the house. Okay? And then the last one, if not when, or if not now, when. I forgot to put now in there, sorry. So if not now, when. So with my product and service, you can tell this to your industry, is I'm saying, man, like with the security industry that we're in, the sad part of it is it's not a matter of if something bad is going to happen to these people. It's when. And that's the sad part of the world that we live in. And I'm so convicted on my product that if I don't set them up with this product and service, they're eventually going to get broken into. So I'll bring that up to them, not in exactly that verbiage, so I'll say, Chaz, I understand that this isn't something that you think is going to happen, and it probably never will, but you just never know. And the reason why Mr. Johnson got it, he knew it wasn't a matter of if someone was going to break into his house, it was a matter of when. And he felt he'd rather be proactive and get this before something happens, rather than waiting until something happens and then it's too late. So I think he made a really good point. Let's go ahead and get this thing done for you. So if you word it slow it down the exact way that I do it. I'm telling you guys, it's one of the most powerful things that you do because your conviction will show. And in terms of conviction, that's going to lead me into my next slide. And if you guys can take one thing from my presentation, this is it. This is one of the most powerful things I'm going to share with you guys that have allowed me to change my life and the life of my customers that I've sold, and it's made me one of the authorities in this industry for selling seniors. Serve, not sell. So what that means is so many people, when they first started selling, same with me, I first started out, I was looking just to get a deal, slam it in. Even if they didn't want it, I would slam it in there, and my numbers showed. So I told you guys earlier I was going to share with you how my grandma allowed me to become one of the authorities in selling seniors. So it was the year of 2012. When I was growing up, I'd visit my grandma in Florida. I live in LA. I fly to Florida every Christmas time. So I'd go out and visit her every Christmas. And every time I'd show up to her house, she would fill me up with love and cookies. And everyone has that one family member that they know when they saw them, they would just give them that big smile or the kiss on the cheek, fill them up with love. And that, for me, that was my grandma, Frances Hall. And every year I'd show up and she'd always make me feel so good, and I couldn't wait to get to the Christmas time. And I'd done the job for a couple of years, and 2012 was my 4th year doing it. And right before Christmas happened, I got a call that my grandma had actually slipped and fallen in the shower. And my grandpa was asleep in the other room, and she laid there for a couple hours in the shower, and she fell and actually broke her hip. And I got the call, and my stomach instantly sunk. And I was super freaked out, and I was like worried if she was going to be okay. And we took her to the hospital, and luckily she survived. But as you guys know with seniors, if you fall once and you have a big traumatic injury, their mental capacity and they change quite a bit. So my grandma that I loved and cared about for so much, she wasn't there anymore. And when everything switched for me, from learning to sell seniors to learning to serve seniors, was when my grandma fell. Because I realized that if I was more convicted on my product and service, what if my grandma would have had my product and she could have pressed the button and it could have saved her life and had the same mental capacity? And so whenever I go to a customer's house, I look at them like my grandma. Because if you guys don't sell security and I knock on your grandma's house, I want you guys to know, and this is how everyone should pitch, is you should look at these seniors as someone you love and you want to serve them. Because every person that I talk to, I look at them as my grandma. Because for them, I have time to save them so they don't go through a fall or a break-in or something like that. And it was super upsetting for me to go through that, and I realized that now, when I switched, that was the year I had my best year, when I started not selling seniors, but serving them. I started looking at them as my family members. Would I try to trick my grandma into buying something she didn't need? Would I lie to my grandma to get a sale? Would I charge her extra when I didn't need to? And I looked at them like that, and that's when my life changed, and that's how my career changed. When I started looking at these seniors from an open heart and loving them. And that was one of the most powerful, profound moments that I've ever had. And I want to give you an example. A couple weeks ago, this is Ira Parker. Ira Parker is 85 years old. She lives at her house in San Bernardino. She has no family members around her. Her whole neighborhood is turned into Section 8 housing. Renters. She has no one that she can trust. And she walks with a walker. I knock up on her door, and I see the walker, and I see the situation that she's living in, and instantly I see my grandma in her eyes. And I realize that this poor lady's here by herself, and she needs my product and service. And of course, she came up with the most objections and didn't want it, didn't need it, but go figure, after we talked for about 20, 30 minutes, she saw that I wasn't trying to rip her off. She started opening up. How many customers have you guys had that you started opening up after you've gone through long enough and they've actually mentioned they wanted to get our product and they wanted to get our service? A lot, right? So she was actually telling me that she slipped and fell at 3 times in front of her house, and she was didn't know who to call. She didn't have an internet. She didn't have, she didn't trust the telemarketers to come out and call her. She didn't know who she was talking to, and she didn't have any family or friends to help her set up with this medical pendant. And if I hadn't knocked her door, if I hadn't gone through the process that I had, Miss Parker might have fallen and she could have died. But she isn't, because I was able to protect her and give her a product and service, because she couldn't call anyone on the internet and she didn't have any outsources to connect with. So realize that there's people out there that need us, that don't feel comfortable calling up on the phone, talking to somebody, that can't go on the internet, that don't have family members that care. And that's why I'm telling you guys, it's so important that we go door to door and communicate with these customers, because there's people out there that need and want our product and service. And if you can meet them with love, compassion, and serve them rather than sell them, you too will increase your sales like I did. And that's when you'll go from selling to serving. Okay? Now what I want you guys to do, if you guys better play along and where you'll get out of this, is I want you to take a second and close your eyes. And I want you to think of one person that has touched you in your life like my grandma did for me. One person that you love, that when you see them, you know it's just nothing but love. Nothing but compassion. Someone that you care so much about. And I want you to think of one word. What describes it? How do you feel? What's in your body right now when you're thinking about this person? And what I want you to do, open your eyes, and I want you to write down that one word. On your notes, either on your piece of paper, or on your phone. And when you guys have this word, the next time you guys go out and knock the door, I want you to think of this word. And when you go knock your customer, and you're thinking about this word, they'll see it, and they'll know your heart's open. And I get a little teary, because, thinking about my word, it gets me. And when you guys go and sell from this place, you'll be so much more fulfilled. And when you come from a place of service, you'll change the marketplace and you'll change the world, because there's people out there that need us. And when you meet them with love and compassion, I'm telling you, not only will your career increase, but so will your finances. And you'll feel good about it. So thank you guys for listening. That was my presentation. We're going to get some Q&As, and then after the Q&As, we're going to go ahead and dive into it. So before we get into the Q&As, I want to stay connected with you guys. If you could take a second, pull out your phones, and find me on Instagram and message me your one word. The one word that you guys found to be most true, and message it to me, because it's going to hold you guys accountable. And next time you go out to these customers and you have that word, you'll see how big of a difference it makes. And I want to hear some of your stories, because that was the biggest thing. When Sam and I got into this thing a few years ago, we wanted to make a difference. We weren't here to make sales, we were here to make a difference and change lives. Not only change the lives of you guys, but change the lives of the customers that we sell and we serve. So hopefully you guys send me that. I really look forward to hearing you guys, and hopefully you've had a profound impact on the message that we sent out today. So next I want to jump into Q&As. So I've got a couple of questions here. I'm happy to answer them. Start off, I saw his hand first. What was your name, my man?
If you don't mind, what was your word? My name was Connor, sorry.
Carter, what's up, Carter? My word was Christmas. Christmas. Every time I think of Christmas, it was just that time of the year. It's like, boom, full love. So, yeah, it's powerful. Thanks, man. You had a question?
Yeah, so when you go to a old person and you tell them a story about your past, and I tend to scare them by accident.
Okay, you self-security?
Yeah,
okay.
But how do you not scare them?
Okay, so there's a very specific way to do it, because there's scare tactics, and then there's a different approach to do it where you do it tactfully. You don't want to come to the door and try to scare the crap out of these people. So how you do it effectively is you sell through the neighbors. The reason why John got this was because he's over the age of 70, and he wasn't really concerned about someone breaking in while he was home, but it was while he was away. Because he lives in a nice neighborhood, so you overcome all the objections through the third party. And when you bring it up that way, it's much more effective. Because you're like, hey, you never know if you're going to get broken into, huh? Yeah, you don't want to say that, because you're not trying to scare these people. Because it is a very real thing that we're dealing with. And every neighborhood that you go to has these kind of issues where someone's breaking in and trying to cause problems. Does that answer it? So sell through the neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Just with my experience with doing a lot of the elderly, sometimes, budget's like the big thing for them, I've noticed. So my thing with your methodology on that, is it more, do you get like no pushback on them on pricing because you're relating these stories with them? Or if you do, how do you know when you're wasting time at that point?
Okay.
How do you go about it?
Glad you asked that question. So what he's asking is, customers are going to throw the objections at you, I can't afford it. So this is one of my favorite things. And Taylor McCarthy spoke here last year, brought this up. My favorite line is, the depth of your conviction is more powerful than the peak of your logic. What that means is, the more convicted on what you sell and what you're willing to serve this customer is more powerful than all the crazy closes that you can do. So what I challenge you, if you're getting that a lot, is they don't feel the need for it. What they're really saying is you haven't built enough emotional value on why I should get this service. So when you hammer in on them, on stories through the neighbors on why they've got it, and you're so convicted behind it, you won't get that. I don't get that objection a lot where customers are saying, I can't afford it. I get they won't use it, but can't afford it isn't something typically that you'll do, because you'll hit it right off the bat at the beginning. This is a product for them because they're on a fixed income. And then when you're convicted and you tell these stories on 5 or 10 seniors in the same exact place that they are, that have gotten their service and it saved their life because of what you've done for them, they're not going to come up with that objection. So what I'd say is really start telling deeper, more impactful stories and building emotional value. And on virtual door-to-door con, I did a talk on building emotional value. So if you guys want to scroll back and look at that, I have something on there. I saw this hand next.
Yeah. How do you take control of the conversation when they're just trying to tell you a bunch of stories from their glory days?
Yes, we get that. Okay. So that's a very hard question. What he asked is, how do you take control of the conversation with you when a senior and then they're rambling and they're going on about cool stories? And I don't mean to say rambling because that's insensitive, because these are people's grandparents. And so you're there for a reason. And understand that in sales, the only time you've provided value to that customer is when you exchange dollars for a service. So even though they're telling stories, that's not selling to them. You want to try to steer it back in the proper direction. So what I always like to do is I always hear them out. I don't interrupt them, but what I'll do is as soon as they start telling their story, I do listen, I do pay attention, because I've met some beautiful people over the years, and some of my best people I've met in the world are from people I've knocked on their door. So I do listen to their stories, but I let them know, like, hey, I understand, like, that's really cool, but man, like, this is super important what I'm doing. We'll get to that in a second, but let me just show you how this thing works, okay? So you acknowledge, I understand what you're saying, but let me just explain it, because this is important, and we'll get right back to that. So you do want to steer in the right direction. You do not let them take control, because the thing is that's not serving them. Okay? So is next.
So in the presentation, and you're dealing with elderly people, and I'm really well with elderly people as well. My question is I try to relay to my reps that work underneath me at what point you would try and bring in a family member into the conversation when you know clearly that they've said, my son or my daughter or my this person helps me with these things. How to bring that in and not lose the opportunity to get that sale today.
What's funny, when you build enough emotional value, you'll find these customers, when you do it right, they'll be like, yeah, they help me with things, but I make the calls around here. So what's
in a lot of cases you'll find
you don't get them building an emotional connection enough to get to that point, right?
I know when I get that son on the phone and he goes, I'm so amazed that you called me to have me in a part of this, that I would much rather be there for it. So I always find a difficult time to figure to my rep to tell them, no, pause, let that person come in and use that as the close.
100%.
But again, losing the sale the next day because they lost the emotion or...
100%. And that's what you'll deal with a lot of rookies. What he basically said is when is there a point where you bring in the family member and involve them in the sale, or do you try to get in and out without trying to involve them, and hopefully they don't call and find out and get freaked out. So what my golden rule is if they bring up a family member 3 times in a sales process, that, hey, my son would love this, or my son helps me out with all this, that's typically when I know 3 times is then I'll get in contact with them. Because if they've mentioned it, then that means that obviously he has a big input on their decisions. He'll call up and he'll ruin all the work that you do. So what you want to first do is after you hear it 3 times, you don't want to skip out on building emotional value with mom. Because if you sell the pants off of her, and she wants it so bad, but son doesn't, she'll convince son to get it. So don't ever skip out on persuading your customer to do that. So first sell mom, you hear the 3, okay, I got that in my back pocket. I've sold her, okay, she's pumped. Okay, like you said, you talk to your son quite a bit. Let me give him a call really quick because I want to make sure he doesn't have a problem with any of this either. And then I'll get him on the phone and I'll say, hey, I'll have mom introduce me, and then I'll go on the phone and I'll pitch him from square one. And I'll bring in all the facts that mom had mentioned why she wants it. It's not me selling it. Yeah, the reason why mom wanted this, the reason why mom thought this would be a good idea, and she knew that you would really benefit from it because she mentioned how much you love and care about her and how beneficial this would be for her. So when you drop that, I'm telling you, the son, you tied him down to loving and caring about their family members, which everybody does. So when you bring that up and you tell that to that son, What's he going to say? Oh, no, I don't want it anymore? No, he loves mom, and he knows she needs it, because if she wants it, guess what? If she wants it bad enough, she's going to get it. Okay, did that answer your question? Cool. You had a
I was
question?
on the same lines, like getting the call from the son or the daughter or
Yep.
somebody else, and then like everything you did kind of goes down the drain.
Yep.
Or like oh, my son's gonna come over. I just texted him, and they just show up like
And ruin
really
everything.
pissed, and you're like, whoa, like you don't even get a chance to talk.
Yep, because, and then to answer that, it kind of ties into that, but when you do truly come from a place of service for customers, they'll see that. When they come to the house and they see that you're not there trying to rip them off, you're actually trying to serve mom and dad, they'll be very thankful that you did.
Yeah, in person's usually better. It's just a phone call, like after, like the next day. You know?
Yep. If you're proactive about it, remember the rule, 3 times. 3 times they bring it up, you sell the main customer, and then you put that in your back pocket. Once they're sold, call them up, and then get them on board with it. I'm telling you, it'll lower your cancellation by a ton. Next question, my man back here.
You were saying, like, you go off, like, basically the neighborhood, like, you sell someone because of Larry get it or
Yep.
you know, whatever. Let's say you're going into an area and no one, you had just brand new in this area,
Yep.
you don't really know one, and you start going and you start hitting the senior demographic,
Yep.
and you realize that, you know, they're saying, oh, well, they all watch over my house, so I'm good, kind of thing. And you haven't gotten that enough rapport to kind of sell them on fire or safety, because they just don't, they, you know, whatever, just the neighborhood kind of thing.
So what he's saying is, oh, sorry, what was that?
No, so what would you
So yeah, what he basically said was, you got a customer that just doesn't really feel the need for it, and they keep saying that, hey, that my neighbors watch out for me. Okay, you guys are gonna deal with this a lot. So how I would handle that is when I first go to a neighborhood, I go to all the existing customers that have my product and service. If I don't have my product and service, I'll go to the customers that have a different company's product and service that sells a similar service, and I'll get testimonies from them. Okay, so the testimonies are your conviction. And then if there's nobody in that neighborhood that has it, I'll use past stories, and then I will regurgitate what my last customer said on why they should get the service. So when I go to Mary Jo, I'm like, yeah, I know your neighbors look out for you, Mary Jo, but Mike, he lived in the last neighborhood we were at, and his biggest thing is even though his neighbors look after it for him, they're not there 24/7. They have lives, they have families, and unfortunately they can't sit there and look after them. So he felt a lot better not relying on his neighbors with his safety, especially now that he's getting up in age. It just wasn't worth the risk not to have something like this. Because at the end of the day, for whatever you're paying for it, it's far the service that you're getting is far more beneficial than the price that you're getting. So when you hit him with that line, you never bring it up again. So super powerful. Next question, right up front.
So how do you get those testimonies? Like, what do you say to, like, make them, you know what I mean? What do you
So
say,
if
like,
they're
what's your
your
opening
existing customer?
question? Yeah.
Okay, so let's say, for example, I'm Graham Wood, going up to a Fluent customer. Hey, what's up? I'm Graham. I see you got Fluent. What do you like about my system? Okay, cool. What was the main reason why you got it? Was there any break-ins that happened in this neighborhood that led you to get this service? Okay, did you have one before this? What was the reason why you got it? And then during that whole time, I'm writing down notes, boom, 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 boom. Because what that's doing is, your conviction is like a balloon in certain neighborhoods, and once your conviction starts expanding, you're so confident you start selling everybody. So in a new neighborhood, your balloon's small, and then once you start doing that conviction and stories, you start building it up. So go in there, stories, asking those questions. So write those ones down. Super powerful stuff. You go to your customers and you ask them why they got it, did something happen? What was the main reason why you went out and purchased the system? Okay, because they should be happy. And then if they're not, service them. Get them a tech out there. Help them out. Because that's what we're in the service industry. Make them a happy customer, because then boom, they're going to be more likely to buy from door to door next time. Okay? Next question. Saw you up here for a minute, back with the hat. One right behind you. Sorry, Jordan. This guy right there.
So other than like smiling and having energy and referencing neighbors, what are you doing to break preoccupation? Because my problem is if I can get past the initial part of my pitch, I'm good. I can get in, and typically I close them. But it's just more so of like breaking the preoccupation, not getting the objection like, hey, I'm good, just close the door, or I'm happy with what I've got, you know, something like that. I'm not too aggressive on the door. What are you doing just to break the preoccupation?
Yeah, when you find yourself giving 20% more energy on the doorstep, like, because that's what I do, I turn it up a little bit, I'll ask him a question right off the bat. You're Mr. Jones. Oh, I'm not interested. Hey, did you hear what happened? Yeah, so I'll ask him a question right off the bat, a hook. Hey, did you hear what happened? Yeah, I'm not here on the streets right now, man. You got to hear this. No, I'll smile at him. So you ask them a question to break their preoccupation. Sometimes you guys, I've gone to customers' houses for 2 or 3 days, they're in a miserable mood, and I couldn't sell them. I went back a week later, and they're all of a sudden feeling much better, and then I sold them. So sometimes you're going to have to do 1 or 2, 3 touches because of that. Don't be afraid to go back to the customer. And then if they're really just like, F off, shut the door, boom, no problem. I know he knows me, and I'll come back, and he's going to feel bad about it. Because you don't know what happened on the other side. What if his son just got into a car crash? What if he was invested in the stock market and lost all his money? What if he didn't buy his ticket early to Door Con and shows up at the door and had to spend $300 instead of a discounted price? You never know. They might be super pissed about that. So, yeah. That answer your question? Yeah, so did you hear what happened? Okay, did Mr. Jones tell you I was coming through? Okay, because he said he was posted on the Nextdoor app. Did you see the Nextdoor app? Do you not have Nextdoor? Oh man, you gotta check this out then. I'll be super quick with you, and if you don't like it, I'll get off your doorstep. So I'll mention Nextdoor app. I always post on Nextdoor. I always post on Facebook pages so that you can have that credibility in the neighborhood, and you can throw that at them right off the bat. Okay? Next question. What else we got right here?
Body language. You touch basis on like body language and how to like your movements, because that's a big part of it as well, is it not?
Yeah. So body language when I knock on the door. Okay. Let's say this is the door right here. I don't think this is long enough, but I'll knock on the door. I'll stand back and I'll be in a relaxed manner. So I'll just be more of a calm and relaxed tone, but I'll still be able to bring the energy and I'll talk to them that way. So it's nothing too different than traditional doors that you'll knock. Okay. Next question.
Yeah, so I don't really work with a product, I work more on performance, which for a lot of people is a big project.
Yeah.
A lot of things that we run into with elderly people is it's something that they don't see the importance in because they're elderly, they don't want to take on a big project.
Yeah, 100%.
How would you overcome that? Or they want you to pitch, but for them it's like they don't see the importance.
So you would find different ways, like for previous customers, that they found it was important. So do you have a couple of seniors that you've already sold to in the past?
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, it's like you go to some houses and it's like they don't see themselves living in this home for very much longer. They might go to an elderly community, or if they don't have anyone they plan on leaving this home to.
Yeah, I would find that out right off the bat and don't waste too much time.
Okay.
You're gonna sift through a lot of stuff. So I know, guys, we're running out of time here. I just wanted to, I think we're basically in for time. I want to thank you guys all for coming. I appreciate you guys listening. Thank you. I'll be hanging around a little bit. If you have extra questions, I'll be up here at the front if you want to come and jar off with me. But thank you guys. Enjoy this. Make sure you introduce yourself to new people. And go door to door.